måler vi det? Hvad er planen for at træne? Og vores danske medarbejdere siger, ja, det går greit. Og så taler de om noget andet, og tager kanskje en øl, og det bliver lidt hyggeligt. Men der er jo ingen tvivl om, at vi har brug for, at alle medarbejdere bliver motiveret af et højt og et ambitiøst mål om at ville skabe verdensklasse oplevelser for vores kunder og stærke økonomiske resultater. Her ser I en billedserie fra en lille konkurrence, vi kalder Live the Dream, hvor vi har bedt vores medarbejdere om at tage fotos af en masse situationer, hvor de fejrer, når de gør noget modigt, når de gør noget godt, når de virkelig gør en forskel i forhold til kunderne. Og som I kan se, det behøver ikke at være så støvet og så kedeligt at jobbe i forsikring, og slet ikke i Bergen. Tak skal I have.
Tak skal du ha.
Tak.
Verdensmester, altså.
Ja.
Hvorfor er det sånn, Morten, at hvis du brukte jo et sportsmetafor og Bjørn Dæhlie i starten. Det er helt greit og helt forståelig når et idrettstalent eller en idrettsmann eller kvinne sier at jeg skal bli verdens beste. Ja, you go girl. Men når et selskap sier det, så virker det som det er en konsernsjef på speed på et internseminar som har gone wrong, på en måte. At vi skal bli verdens beste. Jo, rolig, nå skal vi jobbe på mandag. Hvorfor er forskjellen så stor? Jeg opplever i hvert fall forskjellen som stor.
Ja. Jamen, jeg tror, vi bliver opdraget ekstremt pænt. Vi går på de samme skoler, og så erklærer vi os det her, og så bliver vi vældig alvorlige.
Ja.
Og så begynder vi at tænke, at risken for at fejle bliver næsten vigtigere end lysten til at gøre en forskel. Og jeg tror, at der blev talt om det tidligere, Marco og flere var inde på det. Det her med virkelig at have lyst til at gøre en forskel, og ture tale om sine drømme, og ture gøre en forskel, selvom der er stor risiko. Det handler om mod, det handler om at ture, og det handler om at gå forrest. Og ja, man løber en større risiko, end hvis man sidder ned og tiger stille. Men livet er for kort til at sidde ned og tie stille.
Det er det. Jeg har lyst til å bare binde det helt til sammen, for jeg tror det var Pashawari som sa at forsikringsselskaper begynner nå å ta høyere premie fordi de forbereder seg på de allerede varslede klimatiske endringene. Ja. Er det også en utfordring dere står overfor?
Jamen, selvklart er det det. Jeg synes, det er lidt primitivt, hvis løsningen er bare at sætte prisen op. Altså, løsningen må jo være at finde ud af, hvor er risken stor? Hvordan kan vi som samfund gøre risken mindre? Og så skal vi jo kunne rådgive vores kunder om, hvordan gør de risken for skader på deres ejendele mindre. Så bare sætte prisen op, det er lidt primitivt.
Det er hyggelig å høre at en konsernsjef for et forsikringsselskap sier det, men tusen takk skal du ha.
Tak.
Tusen takk. Ok, siste taler opp på scenen i dag jobber hver eneste dag for oppdragsgivere som ønsker å skape nettopp en forskjell og en mer bærekraftig verden. Først og fremst for å promotere klimavennlige løsninger som allerede eksisterer. I fjor ble hun utnevnt til World Changer 2013 av Greenpeace for arbeidet med å utvikle selskapet hun nå leder. I oppkjøringen til klimamøtet i København var hun prosjektdirektør i København Climate Council. Mine damer og herrer, ønsk velkommen til direktør for den internasjonale organisasjonen Sustainia, Laura Storm.
Tusind tak, og tak til min landsmand Morten. Jeg har øvet mig vældig meget på at komme til Bergen. Jeg har øvet min accent. Jeg har spist pinnekjøtt. Og gået og sagt kuffer og kraffer og virkelig prøvet at komme ind i den bergenske accent. Men jeg tror nu alligevel, at jeg slår over i engelsk for at være helt sikker på, at vi forstår hinanden. So I'm going to do this in English. I have followed the discussions at this lovely meeting, and I totally agree with Morten that it's a really exciting crowd, and it's really an international field that you've managed to put together here in Bergen. And I follow the discussions quite intensively on Twitter. And there are 3 minor critiques of today's event. One is, where are the youth? The other is, where are the women? And the third is, quite oddly, some people discussing the amount that Pachauri is walking around on stage. I will do my best to be young-ish. I will do my best to be a woman. But I will not promise that I won't walk around on stage, because when I get very excited, I tend to start walking around. So excuse me for that to start with. So what Dr. Pachauri said in the beginning was that we are heading in a very, very terrible direction. I won't go into detail with that, but the scenarios are not very pretty. Resource scarcity, pollution, climate change. You know what? We are pretty screwed. But I believe that change does not come if we only focus on the problems and the challenges. Pachauri was telling you to go out there and make business opportunities out of this. And I saw in the first break that a lot of you guys were on the phones, but I know that you were not discussing with your chairman or your board of directors, your shareholders or anything. I've just found out that we really need to turn climate change into the new big business opportunity. I know you were not doing this. And I know that most of you don't really have a clue how you need to actually address this and tackle this challenge. If you were told that the cake on the table or there was a 95% likelihood of a big asteroid hitting you and your family, I know that you would start doing something about it. And it's kind of like the same message we are getting. We're getting the message that there's a 95% likelihood of the cake on the table being poisoned, and we just fill our mouth with it anyway. So I believe that we need to focus more on what the exact business opportunities actually are. We need to move away from the scary images, and we need to start telling people exactly what kind of exciting business opportunities that are out there. If we are to create change in the world, we don't create it by focusing on the very negative doom and gloomsday scenarios. I became a mother for the first time last year, and I know that in my bedtime reading for her, I definitely do not want to tell her that we are about to go under. So I actually very much agreed with Baba Jain this morning when he stressed that religious leaders has huge power in terms of mobilizing masses. I'm a big fan of this guy, even though he's not here anymore. But what he did was empowering and mobilizing masses. What he did was providing people with a positive dream. He wasn't stressing the nightmares and the dooms and gloomsday scenarios. He was providing people a positive vision of a better society where people had equal rights. In his amazing I Have a Dream speech, he allowed people to dream for a better tomorrow. He made people excited, he motivated them, he empowered them. He even wrote out an actual action plan of how we should do that. How about we do the same in tackling resource scarcity, climate change, and do the same in ensuring that we bring our societies on a more sustainable path? That's what we try to do in Sustainia. We try to bring you the positive images of a better tomorrow. We try to focus on what can actually, realistically be done if we focus on implementing the ready and available technologies and solutions. What kind of societies would those create? Sustainia is a vision of the world we could create now, not in 30 or 50 years' time, but now. Because this situation already has the solutions, the technologies, etc. We already have the tools needed. We just need to go out there and actually do it. So Sustainia was, at the first time, it was just thought of as a project that should mobilize and create energy in the discussions after a failed COP15 in Copenhagen. But when we launched the first guide to Sustainia, it created huge interest. There was huge interest among the business community, but also the global consumers were very excited about all of a sudden having a vision that they could actually believe in. They were empowered by seeing the tools and the actions available for them. Because the thing is, when we are met, behavioral scientists have demonstrated that when we are met with very, very catastrophic changes and scenarios, we are primarily dominated by two feelings. The first is, this can't really be my problem. This is a problem for politicians to solve. It's not really in my hands. I can't do anything about it. The other emotion is, I really, really need to do something about this. I have to change my company or my behavior. I need to do something. But quickly you become very disillusioned, even hopeless, because what kind of actions are actually available to you? And quickly you shift into the first emotion, which was, this must be someone else's problem. I can't do anything about it anyway. So what we try to do in Sustainia is that we've built a global organization around three very, very key principles. We focus on providing the clear arguments for change. Why do industry X, Z, and Y need to change, and what are the financial benefits? I have a business degree as well. I think as a business woman. And I know that in order to persuade business people, you need to know more about what's the return on investment. What do I actually get out of this? As we were talking about this morning, we are very egocentric. We want to have something, we want to gain something. We want to see what's in it for me in order to change. So we focus on providing the industries with concrete and clear benefits, incentives. And then we focus on providing the solutions that are already out there, and then we focus on communicating that in a way that is actually mobilizing change. So let me tell you a bit about how we do that. So the way we provide clear arguments for change is that we, for example, the building sector, we gather the key industry players, the investors, the entrepreneurs, the buildings owners, the scientists around the same table. And we analyze what are the key benefits for change. And then we co-create this together, and we start communicating that. In a way, you can say that it's very, it's a green lobbyist organization focused on providing the clear arguments for why we need to see a change. But the backbone of what we do is focused on solutions. Each year, we launch a Sustainia 100. And Sustainia 100 is 100 fascinating, innovative technologies, community projects, solutions within 10 different sectors that has the ability of creating the change that we need to see happen. We want to highlight the real action heroes, the real best practice of how we actually embark on this sustainable transformation. I'll put it down here, and the first one to grasp this is the owner of it. Lucky girl. Sustainia 100 covers 10 different sectors. So it covers everything from the food we eat, the clothes we wear, the houses we live in, how we get around, our education system, and etc. We select them based on these 5 key criteria. They have to live up to the triple bottom line. And they have to be ready and available, because we want technologies and solutions that are available here and now. We don't want just vague ideas. And then we focus on how we can further scale these solutions. And the conclusion is that through our partner network, and we have a strong partner network that help us disseminate and evaluate these solutions, And this year alone, we got 1,000 submissions through this partner network. And the mission is very clear, or the message is very clear, that solutions are hiding in every corner of the world. This is not just the western part of the world providing the developing economies with solutions. No, 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 no. All countries are really supporting to this. And our solutions are currently developed in 80 countries and already deployed in 170 different nations. So that says a lot about the truly global potential of sustainable solutions. And what I would like to tell you a bit about is some of the stories that these solutions are telling us. Because when you analyze a database of 2,000 solutions, you get some insights and you get some trends of what's actually happening in the market. But I won't tell the very boring details, and I won't give you a lot of boring statistics because it's late in the afternoon. So I will focus on telling the powerful stories of these inventors behind the great solutions. Because I strongly believe that it's their stories that we need to tell in order to start creating change. So one story is a story about circular economy. And the circular economy has many, many faces. And allow me to tell you about one of the faces. The winner of this year's Sustainia Award went to WeCyclers. WeCyclers was developed by a Nigerian woman. She was fed up by the garbage problem in her hometown of Lagos. 40% of the garbage in her hometown is not collected at all. And that means that in poor neighborhoods, in the slums, the trash is piling up. She wanted to do something about this, but didn't have any capital. She invented a very, very low-tech but extremely clever business model, and she's actually making money out of this. WeCyclers is a fleet of bicycles. She's now employing 70 people that are biking around the city, collecting trash that can be recycled. They then sell this at a larger facility. They have created an incentive system so that the families in Laos want to provide them with their trash because they earn money from it as well. They get credit that they can use for phone credit, household appliances, etc. Another great story is the story of plastic. We pollute our planet with the use of plastic, but we actually have the possibility of turning that into an opportunity. Air carbon is a pretty crazy technology, and they won't explain me fully what it's all about, so I'm not able to explain to you either. But what they do is that they take carbon from the atmosphere, transform it into a lovely looking plastic. So this technology is not only climate or CO2 neutral, it's CO2 negative. It's actually taking our key problem, converting it to something that we need to use anyway. And if 63% of the plastic we use today were air carbon instead, we would have fixed the climate problem in a heartbeat. Huge potential. It got on the market last year, but those technologies are the technologies that I would like to tell you about. Because imagine if we started using air carbon instead of oil-based plastic. I'm saying oil in that manner because I know that you are all about oil up here. This is something that you know about as well in Bergen. This is fish trash. And the next solution I would like to tell you about is Atlantic Leather. Atlantic Leather is taking what's leftovers from the fish factories on Iceland, and they convert that into beautifully looking leather. It's leather that Dior, Nike, Puma has already used in their collections. It's stronger and more durable than regular looking leather, and they're using trash to produce it. What a lovely way of actually making a business. This is close on a landfill. And each year we throw billions of tons of our clothes and we put that to landfill. ICO has developed a solution that is taking that trash before it goes to the landfill. So I'm not sure whether you've been to H&M, but H&M is collaborating with ICO. And when you turn your clothes to them and get store credit, H&M will then take the clothes, sort it into 350 different categories that they upcycle into new fashion, recycles into pillows and mattresses, use again the materials that would otherwise have just gone to waste, and are developing a great business model on that as well. They're making a good return on investment, ICO, these days. The sharing economy is a $3 billion market. And one situation you might be quite familiar with is this. We have so much stuff in our basements, and the storage facility companies are a booming market these days. The sharing economy is addressing that, and NeighborGoods has developed a very simple app that's making it easy to actually share goods, easy to share your power drill. Kingfisher, who is one of the main producers of power drills, have estimated that their power drills are only used 6 minutes in their whole life cycle. And normally when I tell about this, and I tell about this amazing solution that is making it easy, when I need some skis for my vacation next week, or I need a ladder, or I need a power drill, or I need something that I only use very rarely, that I can easily access there, I'm always confronted with men that says, I really need my own power drill. That's not something that I would like to share. But when I then tell them that this is something that they could make good money on, because NeighborGoods is an app where you then get money each time your neighbor is borrowing your power drill or something like that, it's a different story. But it's also about changing mindsets and changing the mindsets around ownership. Maybe I don't need to own everything that I have. Maybe I can get stuff by sharing and lending instead. Water efficiency is something that all production companies need to address. And we have many solutions in our database and in the Sustainia 100 that is tackling this issue and are providing examples of how companies are actually saving money by using water more smartly. Last year's Sustainia Award winner was Takadu. Takadu is addressing the leakages that we have in our water system. It's a very, very smart system using big data to detect where is the actual leakages, so that the utilities can actually focus on that area. One of the utilities said that within the first year, they had already saved $2 million and saved 2 billion liters of water. That's quite a lot, and it's something that really, really helps. And imagine if that's something that Takadu could do for all their clients. The last example I would like to give you is that of responsible supply chains, because we are all only as strong as our weakest link, and we need to control our supply chain in a very, very clever manner. One solution that have addressed that is an inventor of smartphones, because we have more active cell phones on the planet than we are people. And 1 in every 5 person on this planet owns a smartphone. We've been tweeting away all day today, and I think most of us in here have a smartphone. The problem with that, though, is that they are produced in a very, very unsustainable manner, using minerals from 40 different sources that are often traded in a very difficult manner, in war zones, etc. And the iPhones are almost designed to break after 2 years. Very, very unsustainable business model. Fairphone is a quite nice-looking smartphone. It's competitive on price and performance with an iPhone, but it can easily be disassembled by yourself, and you can buy the parts that needs to be fixed online. It's also produced in a very sustainable manner, and they use minerals from mines in conflict-free zones and where workers are treated very, very fairly. I love Fairphone, and I think they're really putting an example out there of how you can be a very, very successful business, but doing it in a proper manner that are treating both your workers and the planet in a fair way. So that is the kind of stories that I would like to tell my daughter about. And that's the kind of stories that we want to share with people. And what makes me really excited is that there's a growing interest in this. When we launched Sustainia, it wasn't as easy as it is today already, 3 years down the line. Our campaign, where we use #100solutions, in a couple of months, it has reached 136 million people. That makes me really excited. That's the same amount as all of the people in Scandinavia, UK, and France. But it's not enough, of course. We need to change 7 billion people's mindsets and behavior change. But I think it's doable. And I think it's doable by putting forward the great examples, by telling your kids about the fascinating stories that are out there, by providing a more optimistic narrative for the future, by empowering and inspiring your employees and making them excited about the journey that we could go on together, by convincing your shareholders that this is a good business idea. It makes good business sense. It makes terrible business sense not to start gearing your businesses in this more sustainable direction. And I think DNVGL, and you have a good spokesperson from them here today, is a perfect example. I remember Bjørn Haugland and Henrik Madsen talked to me right after the COP15 in Copenhagen, and they said to me, we want to be sustainability leaders, global sustainability leaders in 2014. And at that point in time, that seemed like a bit of an unrealistic plan that they were embarking on. But today they have really shown that they, in a matter of very few years, has transformed their whole business philosophy and mission, and are now transforming industries all over the world. So if they can do it, you can do it as well. And if entrepreneurs can make money out of this, so can you. I would like to conclude by stressing again that this is not just words. And I hope that you leave today with a sense of optimism and a sense of feeling that you can actually do something about this. And if you need inspiration, there are sources you can go to. And if you need people to talk to about how can I actually change my industry, there's lots of people you can talk to. And I hope that that's the kind of sense that you have gotten and you can take away with you today. That there's a lot of people out there. This is just an image of our community that in one of the campaigns we did that all over the world showed the signs that we want to be Sustainians. I hope that you leave today with a feeling that you want to be Sustainians and that you want to provide with good business sense to Sustainians, and that you want to provide your consumers and your customers with a sustainable option. So I would like to finish off by saying that we all need to wake up. This is an image taken on the last day of the negotiations in Copenhagen. Next year, we will negotiate again in Paris. So we have 1 year to send the message that we need to act now. That time to act and wake up is now. And it's time that you wake up as well. So we would like to conclude the day by having a concrete action, very tangible in your hands. This is Little Sun. And this is an image where we launched a project with the people behind Little Sun. Little Sun is a very, very, very simple solar cell, but it's actually providing people, primarily in Africa, with electricity and lighting. When this has been charged by the sun for 5 hours, people in off-grid areas now have electricity or lighting so that they can study at night without using the terribly poisoning kerosene lamps. And we would like to send the signal today when we conclude this amazing day together by sending the signal that we all have the possibility to actually create change. And we would like to take a photo of you with these lamps, but you should only put the light on these lamps if you want to be a driver in creating a more sustainable change on this planet. So only turn this on if you are committed to change and if you believe that change needs to happen. Thank you so much.